A new effort to give students, regardless of their circumstances, a better shot at getting into college is raising a lot of questions. The College Board, a nonprofit group that administers the SAT exam, says it will now begin assigning an adversity score. So the group says it won't consider race, but rather things like crime rates, median family income, and high school class size. Among other things, the students will be assigned a score between 1 and 100. Anything above 50 will indicate a hardship. This is a new initiative, and it's coming as the debate over college admissions is growing with recent cheating scandals out there. It's also something 2020 presidential candidates are talking about. So joining me to discuss, two people who know a lot about this issue, Clare Amselem. She's an education policy analyst with the Heritage Foundation. She's against this new initiative, along with Adam Mortera. He is an attorney suing Harvard for discriminating against Asian American applications. He says that the adversity score is a step in the right direction. So first, Clare, let me start with you. Why do you think it's not necessarily fair to take into account things like children who live in poor rural areas, or even kids of military members who have to be deployed so often?
Yeah, the SAT is one of the few tests left in society that's not supposed to take into account all of these other factors. No matter what skin color you are, what neighborhood you grew up in, this test is supposed to be an equalizer. It's supposed to be, can you answer these questions? And if we really want to level the playing field before students sit down and take the SAT, we should be focusing our efforts on fixing the public school system and allowing students to pursue better schooling options before they enter college.
So, Adam, what do you think about that? I mean, your lawsuit actually says things like this. In Harvard's case, it's affirmative action is a disadvantage to others. So why don't you support something, or why do you support something that separates based on adversity?
Well, first of all, this proposal doesn't judge people by the color of their skin, which is the mission of Students for Fair Admission. But secondly, it doesn't change someone's SAT score. An adversity score will be present next to their SAT score. And believe me, somebody who gets a 1300 on their SATs while bullets are flying around in their neighborhood and their school doesn't have any books is a lot better for college than somebody who basically did nothing, had all the test prep classes in the world, and went to Sidwell Friends in Washington, D.C. and got the same score. And I didn't have to mention anyone's skin color to say that.
And to that point, Clare, they say race is not an issue here. It's not a factor in this adversity score.
No, absolutely. And I don't doubt that certain neighborhood factors certainly affect your ability to learn in school, which is why we should really be having a big conversation about fixing the public education system. I find it really problematic that students won't know what their adversity score is. And so we don't know that these are good metrics. We don't know that these are bad metrics. We just know that there is someone behind the curtain making this decision. And you can't contest that. You have no recourse if you don't agree with how the College Board has determined your life has been. And I find that really troubling, and I think that you can't diminish all human experiences down to a simple number.
Do you think that there should be more transparency, Adam, as to what that number is? Should the child know?
Well, this is a great step in the right direction. I think Clare would probably find it problematic that at most universities, temporary graduate students, temp hire graduate students with essentially no training, judge people on their applications today. The College Board has a ton of information, and they're putting it into a number. This is going to help colleges and universities. Whether they should tell people what their adversity score is, I'm not so sure. I think kids know when bullets are flying around in their neighborhoods or their high school doesn't have any AP classes or textbooks. But I also think not telling students what their adversity score is probably will prevent some of the moral hazards, like gaming the system to increase one's adversity score.
Let's go to what this group is saying. The head of it says there is talent and potential waiting to be discovered in every community. I mean, this is a way, they say, for some of these kids, Clare, to be recognized when no one else is looking at them. How can that be a bad thing?
I think that we should certainly be having this conversation. I think that we should be looking at students who are maybe having more trouble getting into college than others. I just simply disagree that this is the way that we should be doing it.
So what's the way to do it?
We should be not assigning a student to their district public school. I think that tying students to the fate of their neighborhood has been problematic, and it has been problematic for decades. If we really, really cared about evening the playing field for all students, we would say, hey, you have the same right as wealthy parents who send their children to Sidwell Friends to pick the best school that's available to them. And right now we're saying to low-income families, no, I'm sorry, the fate of your zip code is where you simply need to go to school. That's the problem here. And I think we should be focusing their conversation there.
Adam, you are suing Harvard for discrimination. Could a child considered privilege sue saying they took my spot? I'm being discriminated against because I don't have as much adversity.
No, absolutely not. Federal law actually prohibits the use of race in assigning higher education opportunities. It doesn't prohibit the use of somebody's socioeconomic status to take a look at how far they've come in their life to get that 1,300 on their SATs and compare that to somebody who had every single thing handed to them without regard to the color of their skin. Mary Clare has got some interesting proposals. They would involve radical social upheaval of our educational system. Right now, the College Board has to serve its customers. Its customers are colleges and universities. This is going to be an excellent tool for colleges and universities to get away from using race as if your skin color says something about your life experience and get towards looking at where people actually have come from and where they're going.
Mary Clare, that's an interesting point. If you and your proposal were to go anywhere, it would take a tremendous amount of time. Is this a short-term solution?
Oh, I disagree that it would take a tremendous amount of time. States have been doing this for a long time. Many states are doing fantastic things in terms of school choice. Here in Washington, D.C., for example, we have a wildly successful D.C. Opportunity Scholarship Program that has improved graduation rates for students who are participating by 21 percentage points. We're seeing amazing things happen.
You know, if some of those changes were to take place, it doesn't take into account home life, even your changes. It doesn't take into account if you come from a single-parent family, if you come from a family where your parents aren't as educated, if you come from an area that has a high amount of crime. Doesn't take those things into account.
Absolutely, and I don't doubt that definitely impacts a student's ability to perform in the classroom. But I do worry, and it was mentioned before, gaming the system. I worry that regardless of whether or not we know what metrics are going into someone's adversity score, parents may attempt to game the system anyway. We just saw in the recent college admission scandal that some parents are willing to pay $6 million just to get their children into college. I don't doubt that some parents might start to move neighborhoods. That gaming would certainly be encouraged if we're starting to say that students will be assigned a score, and we definitely don't want that to be happening.
If it's coming down to a score,
that would actually be fabulous.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
That would be fabulous. That would be fabulous. The top 10% program in Texas was a huge driver of school integration. If parents want to pick up active two-parent families with kids really interested in college who want to work hard in school, want to pick up and move to some of these failing schools, great. Because that means that we're going to have active parents, engaged families, moving into these neighborhoods with some of these two-parent schools. That's awesome.
Adam and Mary Clare, it is a complex issue, and we thank you for giving your insight on both sides. And if you want my take